What's up, gamers? Welcome back to another episode of Get Game Smart. I'm Steve, and today we're going to be taking a look at Riot's new game mode for Teamfight Tactics, Hyper Roll. So Hyper Roll is going to be shipping to the live server with set 5.0, and I've put a fair bit of time into the PvE, taking a critical look at the game mode so that you guys don't have to, and so that I can share my game knowledge with you guys. If you've been enjoying the videos, definitely feel free to like and subscribe so that you're always up to date. Let's get into the review, guys. First things first, we've got to talk about what's changed in the game mode. Well, first of all, there's no ranked and normal options, so everything's going to be queued into the same system, so definitely use this guide if you want to save your LP or hyper roll points, as it were. So I've broken the game down into the early, mid, and late game. So as far as in-game differences go, first of all, there's only one carousel. It's the very first carousel. After that, Riot kind of removed the sequential draft pick because it's able to speed up the game for us. Also, players can't level, and instead, you're going to level automatically. So your level is always going to be equal to the stage number. So you've got your carousel, a minion round where you'll start at level 1, another minion round where you're level 2, and then the first PvP round, you'll be at level 3, another PvP round at level 3, 2 more at level 4, a minion round at level 5, PvP level 5, etc., etc. So to reiterate again, your level is always equal to the stage that you're currently playing in. So another difference is that your health is reduced to 20 and damage taken is flat based on the round. So close battles don't matter, it's win or lose, winner take all, as it were. So in the early game you're going to be taking 2 damage per loss, in the mid game you'll be taking 4 damage per loss, and in the late game you'll be taking 6 damage per loss. As far as important breakpoints or things to know, it really matters when the damage changes, basically. That's why I've highlighted those rounds. So it's rounds 2, rounds 5, and rounds 8, or rather stage 2, stage 5, and stage 8 are the breakpoints for the different damage amounts, and that's definitely going to impact the way that we play the game. Yeah, another couple things just to keep in mind that because of the way that the game is set up, we're almost always going to reach the late game. I've just done a few exit scenarios here. So this first column is if we were to lose every single game except for the rounds against minions. I'm assuming we can beat the minions, guys. If we can't beat the minions, then you're gonna have to check out some of my other videos to get to know how to play the game a bit better. But assuming we lose every PvP round, we're going to be exiting on round 7 too. So we've almost made it to the late game, losing every single round, and that's why this game is going to be really focused on the late game, in my opinion. As far as economic differences go, first of all, you start the game with 10 gold, and you gain gold equal to the round, like equal to the stage number again, so equal to your level. Each round you're going to gain gold equal to your level. Cool. There's also no gold for winning rounds, and instead the losers actually get +2 gold. So some people, yeah, it used to not be the case where losers got gold and winners got gold, but that was just made the early game way too snowbally, so that was a really welcome change from Riot. And the third and the most major economic difference is that there's actually no interest income. So they've removed the interest mechanic, so it no longer matters if you have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 gold on hand. It's no longer relevant. While these changes might seem pretty innocuous, they've got some pretty serious implications. So the first major implication is because we can't control our leveling, it makes rerolls really frustrating to play and really bad. So I would say, as a rule of thumb, you should avoid rerolls. And the main reason for this, for our newer players, rerolls refers to trying to 3-star a unit. Often a 1-cost unit gets rerolled. The problem with rerolling a 1-cost and hyper roll is that you are, after level 5, it's very difficult to roll for 1 costs, and you cannot control to stay at level 5 indefinitely. You actually only get 1 PvP round at level 5, and then all of a sudden you're leveling out of the range. So if you want to play a reroll, I would recommend having at least 7 copies before the end of round 5 to make it worth your while consistently. So the second implication is that win streaking early matters a lot more than regular TFT. So in regular TFT, there's kind of two trains of thought. You either can win early or, heck, just open fort and lose early, and you're going to have good econ and item priority. The reason why loss streaking early is not effective in TFT, in Hyper Roll, is because there's no item priority to secure. There's only one carousel, guys, so you're not going to get carousel priority in the later rounds, so it's definitely better to just win streak early and save as much health as you can. So that's what this guide is going to be focused on. So the third implication is that, like I said, the mid game doesn't really matter that much, because if you're winning a few rounds, you're going to make it to the late game regardless. So this game is really focused on the early game, surviving and like setting yourself up for success, and then the late game composition, which is going to be an Omega strong board that's going to help you win the game. Level 5s through 7, which is the mid game, is only 4 combat rounds, and it just seems to go by in an absolute flurry. It's all about early game and late game in particular. And the fourth implication is that econ is not really important. It's still important, and we're going to talk about that as we go into the guide, but it's a lot less punished to roll early. So, like, feel free to roll early. You're going to be rolling a lot more than in a regular game of TFT. This is Hyper Roll, and it lives up to its name. A few other quick notes on econ is that gold on your bench, like you should be buying your shops at all times. You should be using all 9 slots of your bench, because gold on your bench is as good as gold in your hand, because there's no interest income. And yeah, that's the first look at how the game mode is going to be set up. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about gameplay and strategy and how we're actually going to go about playing the game. So the early game, as we talked about, it's all about board strength, and the way that we're going to pull that off is by prioritizing getting 2-star 1-cost units out there. So how we're going to increase the chances of ourselves doing that is by rolling at 2-1. So you start the game with 10 gold, and 2-1 is the first shop that you have access to. You should almost always, and you should always do this, buy all 5 of the 1-cost units in your first shop, refresh the shop, buy any pairs you have. You're very likely to get coins as well off of either your first or second minion camp, and that means that you can probably buy 2 whole shops. As to whether you should roll a second time there, that's going to be dependent on if you have coins or not. But yeah, just like, it's Hyper Roll, guys. You start the game, buying your whole shop, rolling once, buying all the pairs, and trying to get a strong early board out there that you can put together with 3 units. As far as what makes a early board strong or good, it's honestly, it's more or less about how many 2-star units you can get on the field at once. It's like during stage 3, even stage 4, it's almost always about having more 2-stars rather than having traits. That being said, here are some pretty good boards with at least 1 2-star and an item slammed. So you could play the Hellion opener. The most popular Hellion opener, the most common one, is Ziggs, Kled, and Poppy. And they're going to be holding your AP, AD, and tank items respectively. At levels 4 and 5, the techs you're going to be looking to consider is obviously 5 Hellion, but Knight and Cavalier, with Knight being of a higher priority over the Cavalier. You might also find yourself playing a Renewer opener, where you're going to have either Lysandra, Vlad, or Soraka. Basically pick 2 of those, and then you're going to want to tech in either like Brawlers at level 4, or at level 3, I would try and activate either the Dawnbringer if you have Soraka, or the Nightbringer if you have Vladimir, so you could use Sejuani or Gragas or Kha'Zix to pull those off. So yeah, Renewer openers are pretty darn strong, and they're pretty flexible as well. Definitely can look to go for an early Coven if you get it, otherwise I'd continue to build around your 2-stars. So the Dawnbringer Brawler is probably one of the strongest openers right now. I think this is the opener I've had the most success with. It's really, really good, and basically it's using Kha'Zix, Gragas, and Warwick are set. So Kha'Zix and Gragas, plus another brawler basically. And then at level 4 and 5 you look to tech in like 4 brawler if you get it would be nice, 4 Dawnbringers also good, but assassin. So it's Dawnbringer, brawler, assassin is like a really strong opener that's guaranteed to, not guaranteed, but almost guaranteed to get you win streaking through the early game. Another opener that I like when I end up high rolling a Skirmisher out of an orb is actually 3 Skirmisher. I think it's quite strong at level 3 just because the shield is quite a bit. I think Skirmisher falls off pretty quickly until you get 6 Skirmisher in and get the Jax carrying, but for an opener it's really strong if you high roll a Skirmisher out of an orb. In level 4 and 5 techs to consider, you'd be looking at probably going down the Dragon Slayer route if you get Trundle and Pantheon, or start holding Skirmishers and like Nautiluses for Ironclad and just like transition into a 6 Skirmisher build. So at level 5, damage is increased to 4 per round, and this begins the mid game. So our strategy from here is a little bit divergent, and I would encourage you guys to do what I do, which is try to take stock of the game at level 5. That's like looking at the game and thinking, is the game going well for us? Does the lobby feel too strong? What is it? If the game's going well for us, we're at 16 plus health kind of thing, like we've only lost 1, max 2 combats in the early round after the stage 5 combat, then congrats, we're in the driver's seat and we're like looking pretty good for this game. The important thing at this point is to start thinking about our late game composition that's going to secure us that like top 2 finish, right? If you've got multiple pairs or like outs, feel free to roll for those. Otherwise, I would like hold on to a fair bit of your chunk of coin and roll down at level 7 or 8. 8's like if you've put together a super strong board and you're good all the way to level 8 and you can roll down like 40 gold at level 8 or something, that's like the probably ideal scenario. Otherwise, if you got off to a pretty good start but the lobby seems to be hitting pretty hard, then maybe we actually need to roll down at level 7 instead. The later we can roll down means the higher cost units we can see basically to get ourselves a more well-rounded late game composition. So despite the fact that that econ incentives were removed with interest being taken out of the game, there's still a reason to hold on to your gold to later in the game. So again, that's if things are going well. If things are not going well, and let's say we've lost 3+ rounds early on, we're at like 12 or 14 health after the round 5 combat, then things get a bit trickier and we have to change our mindset and we've got to roll actively. And we've got to really, we're now playing for like a top 5. Doesn't mean we can't come back to win, but we have to play a bit safer. So what I mean by rolling actively is not hoarding your econ like you would if you're win streaking. And rolling down to improve your board basically every time you level is going to give you a really smooth power curve throughout the game, which typically isn't great, but hey, if we're losing, we have to get the power out now, because this game doesn't last that long. If you find yourself in a position where you've got a ton of 1-stars on the board, you probably weren't rolling actively enough. So as we went over it in our breakdown of what its difference from the game, I recommend largely, now this is going to depend game from game, every time you level you should be rolling, just a little bit at least. Regardless of if you're winning or if you're losing, roll like once or twice when you level to try and improve your board. If you're like going out, then you want to be rolling all of your gold, or like close to all of it. But I would say this kind of starts only at level 6. I don't think that rolling at 5 is very good, because rolling at level 5, I mean the game can't be going that badly at level 5. Like at most you've lost, I guess technically at most you can lose 12 health. If you lose all 4 of the early game and then you lose round 5 as well, you can technically be at 12 health, but you're still in the game at that point. Like 8 health is not like you can do it. You can do things with 1 health in hyper roll, but I think if you end up rolling at level 5, the real issue is that you're going to have very little chance to see any 4 costs. You're going to have only a 2% chance of seeing a 4 cost, which is really no good. And because 4 costs are the dominant carries in the set once again, and you also have a lower chance of seeing your 3 costs that are going to help round out your comp as well. So I think it's almost always better to take stock of the game at level 5, but not really roll too hard before level 5. so that you can roll down at level 6 if the game is looking quite desperate, so that you can roll down at level 7 if the game's in a normal state, or you can roll down at level 8 if you're in the driver's seat. But again, this is hyper roll, so definitely have your finger on that D button and roll a few times each time you level. And the late game starts at round 8 when the damage changes to 6 per round. The late game is probably most similar to like normal teamfight tactics, at least when you get to the late game. There's going to be like a few people have been knocked out by this point probably, and yeah, you should really be focusing on strengthening your own board. Hopefully you've thrown down some synergistic items on the way and you've got your 4-cost carries coming online. As far as what builds to go, I don't want to suggest this because I'm sure that the meta is going to change a lot. My recommendation would be to use resources like tactics tools or another online resource that's going to have the compositions that are doing well in the current meta at the top, and yeah, just try to play some of those. So currently on the PBE, those comps would be like 6 redeemed Vel'Koz carry, 6 Skirmisher Jax carry, like 4 to 6 Dawnbringer Karma carry. You know what I'm saying, guys? Like things are gonna change though. Like the Forgotten Legionnaire Draven carry, Nightbringer Aphelios carry. Like, I'm not sure which one is going to be the best right now, especially when things go live. So yeah, definitely just use a resource online that's going to be more up to date than this video is by the time you watch it. And yeah, definitely try to micromanage your positioning, just watching the fights, and just realizing that you've got to get everything in. If you've got Nikos on the bench in round 8, like, you should roll down all of your gold. If you don't hit the carries, you should be using that Nico. The amount of rounds where I've gone out just by not looking at my health, realizing I only have 6 health left, and dying with 2 Nikos on my bench in a 1-star 4-cost feels bad. So yeah, the late game is more than anything, it's about making sure that we're moving towards this late game build in the mid game, and making sure that all of your resources are spent so that you don't go out with a bunch of Econ or Nikos on your bench. With that being said, hope you guys enjoyed the guide, enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did. Yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Full disclosure, I am not a challenger level player. I finished set 4.5 in Diamond 2, and I achieved just over 4,000 on the hyper roll rating on the public beta environment. So I definitely welcome any comments, discussions, criticisms, whatever, down in the comments below. Thanks, guys.